All right, so we're covering F listed, K listed, P and U listed waste today. We're doing some questions and answers. And we'll have some examples after some slides. So if you have some questions, maybe hold on to them for a little bit. And hopefully the example will clear it up. If it doesn't, feel free to ask your question. So what Leon already mentioned, he briefly went over characteristic waste, how testing, waste analysis is required. What I can see in many respects as a positive about listed waste is it makes it easier for an inspector, it makes it easier for a generator. Oh, look at your waste, it's on this list. That's why it's hazardous. Thanks very much. So it's easier for them to make a determination in many ways, just looking at the definitions of the listed waste. Again, these are the lists that we're covering. F list is non-industry specific. Process waste, K list, industry specific. P and U are discarded or intended to be discarded, unused CCPs or commercial chemical products. And we already covered this a little bit, the benefits of listed waste compared to characteristic. So when you consult the lists, the EPA list, you're going to find on the column next to the listed chemical, you're going to find in parentheses one of these codes. And that's the criteria EPA used, obviously, to list the waste. So I for ignitability, C for corrosivity, and so on and so on. You also have E, which is a kind of a strange one. You only find that, I think, next to one or two baghouse wastes for antimony. Anyone have those wastes that you regulate? All right, moving on. Acutely hazardous waste, H, and then toxic waste. The difference between the E and T, they sound similar. The E criteria is for a T-clip, whereas the T, toxicity, is concerned about toxic constituents, which we deal with far more often. All right, so F-listed waste codes. Non-specific sources. They list them into 7 groups. You're not going to find that on the list. It's just a kind of informal grouping of the types of waste. You have spent solvents, F01 through 5. Electroplating waste and other metal finishings, F6 through 19. Dioxin containing, chlorinated aliphatic hydrocarbons, wood preserving, petroleum refinery wastewater sludges, multi-source leachate. As you can see on the slide, seen in San Diego County, also in Riverside County, I would imagine the same for Orange, the two on the top, the spent solvents and electroplating far more frequently than the others. Now, by a show of hands in the rooms, I'd just like to know how many people regulate these type of wastes. And what are some examples of the industries that those wastes are coming from? If you just could shout them out. Circuit breaker manufacturer, auto body, a lot of that. What else? Refinery? Anything else? Military? Anything else? Aerospace, yeah. I mean, the list goes on and on. These are non-industry specific. There's going to be a wide swath of F-listed waste coming from many, many different industries. So the people that had their hands up, people who didn't, those may have been good resources for you to hit up either after this presentation or get a card. Because if you do encounter F-listed waste, you want to talk to some people that have experienced, have some experience with it. So the solvent definition for F01 through 5, spent solvent. And solvent use, which is like cleaning, degreasing, dissolving, immobilization, that's what it has to be used for. If it's not used as a solvent, then you don't have a spent solvent. So for example, if the solvent is an ingredient in paint and it's on one of the F listings, but it's used as an ingredient in the paint, it's not going to be, if that paint is not used as that solvent, then that's not going to carry that F listing if you have to dispose of that paint. It's not a spent solvent. Now that's clarified through with EPA and DTSC. And we covered the first 2 bullets, used as a solvent. Also, it must be spent. This third bullet we'll get into in the next slides here. But it has to meet specific before use concentrations, and those are listed in the definition of the regs. And speaking of definitions, we have 260.10. which is the definition sections of Title 22. I don't know how many of you spend a lot of time there. It seems like I've spent more than my fair share there lately, more than I care to recall. But a lot of good stuff there, a lot of stuff that you have to refer back to, so it's an important section. But spent materials defined there, it's any material that has been used and as a result of contamination can no longer serve the purpose for which it was created. All right, so getting into the F listings. For mixtures of F1, 2, 4, and 5, any mixture before use greater than 10%. That's a common theme that we'll see on the coming slides. We'll go over each one of these in more detail, but 10%, any combination of those wastes before use. So we're not talking after use, which will likely be less concentrated, but before. Here's an example. If you have 25% carbon tetrachloride, an F001 listed, with water, you have 25% total of your listed waste. And therefore, it's going to carry the F listing, in this case, F001. Now, if you had 9% carbon tetrachloride, would this carry the F listing? No. Okay. You guys are awake. All right. So F001, and as you can see here in parentheses, the toxicity, the T for toxicity, that's why F001 is listed. Spent halogenated solvents used in degreasing. You have tetrachloroethylene, methylene chloride, trichloroethylene, common solvents containing before use a total of 10% or more. It also includes the mixtures of 2, 4, and 5, and still bottoms from the recovery of the spent solvents. Here, in F002, you can see spent halogenated solvents. And if you go back, well, before we go back, you can see the tetrachloroethylene, methylene chloride, trichloroethylene. Those were on the previous list. So if you go back and you're paying attention to the top line here, spent halogenated solvents used in degreasing. Used in degreasing is gone now. And what EPA has clarified through a RCRA Online document, 13469, it's not in the slides, so 13469 if you're interested. Degreasing for F001 is large-scale degreasing operations. So that code shouldn't be used for smaller scale cleaning, repair work, dry cleaning. Those are for F002.
Watch this.
Bam. Leon brought it up that fast. We're a stellar team,
There it is. More info than they want.
Yeah, that's right. Kill you with RCRA Online here. So it's all detailed there. It's a great resource. Just kind of an aside, tetrachloroethylene, I don't know how many inspectors are seeing that dry cleaners still, but that will be phased out by 2023 by AQMD standards, so we'll be seeing less and less of that. Going forward here, F003, if you notice up above the I, so the first two, 1 and 2, were T, listed for toxicity. This one's listed for ignitability. Xylene, acetone, ethylbenzene, methyl isobutyl ketone, methanol. Those are all examples in F003. And this is the one that the definition's a little bit different. And you can see that only highlighted there. All spent solvent mixtures, blends containing before use only the ones listed above, only F003s, or mixtures and blends with 10% of the others. And there is no de minimis amount of F003. If there's a 1% of F003 in a mixture of solvent, it will carry that listing, along with any of the other F codes if above 10%. F004, we're back to toxicity for its listing characteristic. Creosoles, creosoleic acid, nitrobenzene, all again 10% more of any mixture or blend, including the F1, 2, and 5. And we're at F005, ignitability and toxicity are the reasons it's listed. Toluene, methyl ethyl ketone, carbon disulfide, benzene, some examples of the F005 listing. And again, same definition as those others, 10% or more of any combination. So here's an example of a solvent mixture. I'm going to ask for your participation here. Quiz time. Before use concentration, you have 5% carbon tetrachloride, F201, 3% crucilic acid, 2% toluene, 90% water. I know I'm going to ask you to do some math. It's early. How much percentage do we have of listed waste? I heard 10 right here. You get a Reese's. That's fast. Nice. He recovered my poor throw. Nice. Good job. So we have 10% of total listed solvents. So what waste codes are going to be associated with this waste? What was that? All of them.
Milky Way.
That's right. Hook them up with the Milky Way. So pretty easy. 30% toluene, 1% trichlorofluoromethane, 31% total, above 10%. It's going to carry those listings. Pretty straightforward. F203 on the other end, a little bit tricky. The two criteria for F203 solvent mixtures, it can contain only the F203 constituent that is pure or technical grade. Now pure is simply that, just pure 100% product. You don't probably find that very often. Technical grade on the other end is not defined in regulation. And that's also, going back to our RCRA Online, a resource that you can find that EPA has used to determine what technical grade is. And technical grade is simply, well, an example will come up on the next slide, I believe. But then also the next criteria, one or more F203 constituents and 10% or more of the other F listed prior to use. So technical grade. Say you have a painter, a generator of some waste. He has 99% xylene, 99.9% xylene. And it's unused. I'm sorry, that's PNU listed. It's used. It's been used to clean some paintbrushes or something, and he's wondering what to do with it. Is this F003 listing going to apply or not? What he looks at is, okay, I have this 99.9%. I purchased it at 99.9%. What other formulations are out there? Oh, it's all 99.9%? That's the technical grade then. EPA doesn't go and define per chemical a percentage for every single chemical. It's just what is out there as available on the market and used commonly for technical grade. Does that make sense? I see a lot of blank stares.
Question.
Yeah.
This is only applies to bulk line. Let's say you've got like a bottle of benzene.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing a chemical cleanup, and it's been opened, but it hasn't only been used. Would that fall under FO or would that fall under?
It's been unused?
The lid's been taken off, but it's at 99% full.
Okay, so yeah, it comes back down to Leon's whispering in my ear over pure U, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
Because that's a lot of the questions is you go to some of these R&D facilities,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a ton of quote unquote unused used chemicals.
Yeah.
Do you use codes? Do you use ones that have?
You'll find, at least I found on manifest, people kill the manifest with codes. They just throw whatever code they want at it. I think the RCRA Online instructor, he said that, people do that commonly, but they shouldn't. So you really want to hone in on what codes apply. It makes it difficult to treat if it has more codes, or can.
Yeah, I want to say something here too. It's a good point to bring up because when I go on, especially doing research institutions, is I'm thinking used means one thing to me, and to them, used means they took a chemical container, opened it, took a little out, and used it. Now they're calling this used. Well, they didn't use, this isn't used, it's open container, and they've taken some for a process, but that doesn't make that a used container. So I think we use the term used a little differently depending on if you're trying to apply these regulations or if you're just talking from like QA, QC in a laboratory.
Was anyone in the household hazardous waste class yesterday with Asha? Because I know that in some slides she kind of mentioned this, but in the opposite direction. So for clarification, and we'll get into PNU more, but if you have, what Leon said is accurate. Those were some fuzzy bottles that she showed but it's up to the generator to determine and tell you. And if they're not comfortable with it, then likelihood is they won't be comfortable calling it unused if they don't know. So, all right. So F003, some examples. We talked about 99.9% xylene. What listing? Will this have the F003 listing? It indicates its technical grade, so yes, it will. So say you have 15% tetrachloroethylene, an F001 plus 1% ethyl benzene, F003. What waste code? Well, one, will this be an F003 listing? No? Anyone else? So I'm setting you up nice here. Yes. And what other listings would it have? No de minimis amounts for F003.
Pardon me, but F003 is for ignitability, and that doesn't look like ignitable.
There's no de minimis amounts from what the EPA guidance says for an F003. So any amount that you have, if it's used as a solvent, spent solvent, you're in.
Okay.
I don't know about ethyl benzene ignitability.
So,
If it's listed in F003 though on the list.
it is listed.
Uh-huh.
It's listed for ignitability. And if that mixture is not ignitable, and it probably is not, given 84% water,
Uh-huh.
it'll fail a closed cup test. Are you sure that F003
I'm not sure, no.
can be applied?
No, I'm not
I'm
sure.
certain that
F1, I agree with you.
the person that put this together did not make a slide that was inaccurate, but we're not able to offer you the full explanation you want today, so I'm going to try and look it up. Most of these were pulled verbatim, though, from guidance that was given out from EPA
Yeah.
and published by through McCoy's, which is the resource that we commonly use. So I will look that up, and we'll have an explanation for you later. Thank you.
Good question. All right. So any questions on spent solvent? All right. So electroplating, production of thin surface coating, metal, have electricity going across in a bath, anodizing, oxidation, chemical etching, milling, cleaning and stripping, all have F06, 006, 007, 8, and 9 listings. The 7, 8, and 9 only are applicable when cyanides are involved. F06 is for the sludge. And if you can see, it's hard to see on this slide, down here, there's a white citation. Can you guys make that out? In any case, it's the Federal Register 43350, December 1986. That's what brings us to this next slide here, talking about F06 listing. It's wastewater treatment sludge from electroplating operations. And these particular, except for the following, that's what that Federal Register discusses, are these items that are excluded from the F06 listing because of industry pressure or petition. Back to our definition section, point 10, memories. You have sludge, means any solid, semi-solid, or liquid waste generated from municipal, commercial, or industrial wastewater treatment plant, water supply treatment plant, and exclusive of the treatment effluent from the wastewater treatment plant. So the waste coming out of a generator's wastewater treatment system is sludge, solid, semi-solid, or liquid. Metal heat treating. Of the people, just out of curiosity, of the people who raise their hands with the F listings, how many people deal with electroplating and metal heating? I see feeble hands going up. Not proud of your experience? So people who have not yet inspected facilities like that, I suggest you hit up people who have, obviously, for their know-how. So metal heat treating is a little different from electroplating. Involves carbon and a heat bath instead of electricity that makes the steel stronger, or the metal stronger, I should say. And the F10, 11, and 12 waste codes apply. Also, only if cyanide is involved. F019, listed for the toxicity characteristic. Wastewater treatment sludges from the chemical conversion coating of aluminum. And this is just a different process where they use an electrochemical potential to help create a surface layer coating on the metal. So again, different from electroplating in that electricity isn't used, just electrochemical potential. Which brings us to K-listing. For those of you in the room who have regulated K-list, facilities that generate K-list, could you raise your hands high this time? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Not too many. And for those who raise your hands, what industries are those? Ink? Liquor? Liquor curing? Anybody else? What was it? Pesticides? And where are you located? Just so everybody kind of knows. Berkeley? Okay. Anybody else? Terry's from Orange.